Hi everybody, my name is Ice Valkyrie and we are back with more Rage topics, and today we are going to be talking part 2 about our video game logic. So last time we covered equipment, so this time we're going to be basically covering a whole bunch of other stuff to finish off this art section, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, join me today, we have Peter and we have Fox. Say hello guys.
Hello,
Hi.
everybody. Hello.
I guess introductions are not needed, or do you guys want to still talk about yourself, or let us know, or let the viewers know who you are if they didn't see your previous videos?
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm a guest on this podcast. That's about it.
Yay!
Hi, my name's Fox, Montreal area cosplay photographer, and I like to play video games.
Yay! Cool! And I'm Ice Valkyrie, your host, if you didn't know that already. So sad. Okay, so anyways, let's start off with first thing that we're going to talk about the logic of video games, and that's setting and storyline. These are huge things that people rage about all the time, whether the storyline is not making any sense once they get there, or even the setting of where the characters take place in. What the world around them doesn't make any sense to them. So just for example, illogical scenes like such as like dream worlds in video games. I don't sometimes understand the concept of those being there, so I don't know what you guys think about that, but
Man. Dream worlds. I can't think of too many. The one that pops up to mind right off the bat is Alice. I don't know if that's all in her head or it's an alternate reality, but that's like playing within the minds of people. Same thing with Psychonauts, but while they may not make a lot of sense, they are great story mechanics.
no, I totally understand. Like the whole Alice concept is like you really just don't know if it's all in her head or if it actually is happening or not, and it's a whole like psychological battle going on with her. So that's a very valid point. There's other dream sequences that happen in a lot of RPG games, though. For example, like the Final Fantasy series, there's always usually some kind of dream
Oh,
state or place that you can travel to. And if I'm thinking correctly, there was the whole, I guess, storyline with Titus in Final Fantasy X.
God, yeah, you are merely a dream. Oh,
Yeah,
God,
Um,
I hated 10 for that. It's just like, it makes no sense. You're a dream of these guys, and you only exist while they're asleep. It's some like super. Well, it's also super metaphysical in a way, and sin, and now that I think about it, Jecht was also from that dream reality. He was merged with Sin, so literally all they had to do was wake up, and Sin would disappear.
I know, but that's kind of weird. The whole thing was a weird concept because of the fact that like they found out that like their reality wasn't really real, and then they were just like there visiting. It was kind of it was really strange. And then the fact that like Titus is like, well, this is my story. I'm like, are
That's
you
it.
real? Are you not real? Like, how is like Yuna making out with Titus all the time? Is she making out with a dream guy? Like, what's going on?
What they call the name of the city again in FF10?
Which one?
Whoops.
Zanarkand.
Zanarkand, yeah.
This is not the first time we've destroyed Zanarkand. We've become quite good at it.
Um, kind of diverging from Final Fantasy to another game that I can think of that has a dream sequence is Super Mario Brothers 2, if you think about it. Because that actually took
So,
place in Mario's head when he was dreaming.
he was on
Uh,
shrooms, man. He was on shrooms.
That was more of a cheap cop out. They just took a game. What was it? Doki Doki Panic. They
yeah.
reskinned it as Mario, and then it's like to explain away all the inconsistency. They just said, "Yeah, Mario's dreaming it."
Okay, well, okay. Let me flip this idea on its head a little bit. What about a gaming sequence that was drug induced?
Hmm.
And I'll cite I have an example for this. I have an example. In Grand Theft Auto 5, I do know in one of the missions, you actually smoke weed and you're in like this buzz or high sequence, and you got to fight off either, I don't know if it was bears in one sequence or aliens in another.
Hmm.
So, what do you think of that? Like a drug-induced
Well,
game?
definitely they put that in certain states, I guess, to make it more interesting for player experience. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that in other games before where they've added that element of like having to take some kind of drug or whatever in order for the character to travel to some magical land or whatever. So like going back to Peter's point about Alice, like I mean, just that in itself is like it looks like she was like in a drug-induced state, you know, type thing. So either eating the food or drinking the potion or whatever, like that's what that was.
Right.
Going back to again Final Fantasy though, I would say like there's another example of this, and that's by going to the Chocobo Paradise in like FF9 or something. Like that whole like section of the world is like, what the hell did I just walk into? Like it's just completely different from the rest of the game, and you're like, I'm off to save the world, and all of a sudden there's like this whole place that's like magical and birds flying everywhere and stuff.
Before we go back to Final Fantasy, I do want to touch a little bit more on the whole drug-induced sequences in games.
Okay.
If you look at Batman Arkham Knight, there's a whole segment where you fight under Scarecrow gas toxin, and the whole even Arkham Asylum.
Oh yeah.
The hallucination sequences. But here's the thing, we're talking about logic in games and all that. I find those are actually more logical because they are hallucinations and you are seeing what the character is seeing. So they do fall into the realm of the in-game logic, much more so than some of the other dream sequences. And if you want to go into like real dream sequences that make no freaking sense, FF7 when you're inside Cloud's head.
That's true. This is very true.
Like you're literally walking down 3 memory lanes.
Yeah.
Different points in his past, and it's interacting with it in such a way that you have the giant cloud in the background strips down back into the normal one.
Oh my god, you just reminded me of something that was creepy. Have you guys played Silent Hill 4, The Room?
No.
Okay.
Tear me apart, Lisa!
There is a really, really psychological part in that game where you're like walking in, I don't know if it's like a prison or something, but anyways, one of the it's the hospital. You're walking in a hospital and then you're opening different doors and there's different weird stuff going on, but one of the rooms that you walk into, there's literally a giant head of the girl that lives next door to you, and she's like moaning like sex sounds. It's just so creepy and weird, and you're like, why is this here? It doesn't make sense with the rest of the game. It's just throwing me off. So I'm like, okay, this doesn't really make sense to me. You guys should look at that up on YouTube, by the way.
Okay.
It's some creepy crap.
Well, imagine.
So, do you guys think of anything else that's
Yeah, I can think of something. Something that always makes me mad when I think about it. And we're gonna go back to Final Fantasy one more time.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
The whole world of Lassie and Fal'Cie.
Oh jeez.
Like Pulse and Grand Pulse. That entire system makes no sense. Pulse is like 20 times the size. No, Grand Pulse is 20 times the size of Pulse, yet the gravity is exactly the same.
Oh my gosh.
They're just like, hey, let's hold up one planet with just a giant stream of crystals with another planet, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
What nonsensical story environments you go to Final Fantasy?
Well, pretty much any RPG, if you look at it, like I'm using Final Fantasy because it's really like it's a great series, but it has some of its like weird moments. Like, for example, you're playing the whole entire game, you know who the main enemy is, but when you get to the ending, it's like you beat the enemy, and then there's another final boss afterwards. Like that happens so often in video games, which I don't really get. Like, I'm looking at my favorite Final Fantasy, was Final Fantasy 9, and essentially it's like, you fight Kuja, you win against Kuja, then all of a sudden there's a god boss, like, out of nowhere, and you're like, where did this guy come from? What does this have to do with anything?
You know what I hate? Like, sometimes those, like, nonsensical bosses that just keep repeating and repeating, like Bartandalus in FF13. I'm like, you're a wall with a face. I've kicked your ass 5 times.
Yeah.
Stop being so
Wait,
pomp.
are we talking about bosses that have like a third, fourth, and fifth like form?
This
kind of
isn't
thing?
even my final form.
Yeah, well,
that.
there's those instances too, though. Like, I mean, it just doesn't fit with the story, type thing, because it's just like it's so out of place. And there's like certain bosses that just show up, and you're like, "Where the fuck did you come from? We just threw you in because you have to fight now."
But the Sephiroth's final form, Kefka's final form.
Yeah.
Let's add some rings and balls and spheres, like put a half a wing on it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so screwed up. Anyways, do you guys think of any storylines that you really had a hard time understanding though, like? Because there's like so many games that I've played over the years, but there's like some of them that just like have the worst. I don't know. They're not very logical. I'm trying to look at my.
Onimusha 2. I'm pulling this one out of obscurity. Onimusha 2, I don't know, it just didn't feel like it had a good story because it was like one of those stories that had like multiple paths, and what you did in one instance could trigger into another instance. I just didn't understand the story of that. Basically, it was like the samurai. He got like this power of the ogres, and he's able to absorb the souls of demons and defeat the demons that were conquering the feudal Japan. That's one story. To this day, I still don't know what it's about.
Huh. Peter, do you have anything, or can we move on?
Aside continues to rage about FF13 and its completely nonsensical world. No, I'm good.
Yeah, I guess I gave my total example of Final Fantasies and stuff like that. I don't know. There's like certain games that I don't know. They have weird endings and whatnot. So
I find that a lot with us, especially with RPGs. JRPGs or Western RPGs. It's like, what the heck? What was that one game there? The Conduit. Do you remember that Wii shooter?
Oh yeah.
At the end of the Conduit 2, you have a bunch of American presidents that come out of a Stargate, and they're like, okay, this is where it gets weird.
Oh jeez. Oh, that reminds me though. The old because I have an old PS1 game called Elemental Gearbolt, and I thought it was cool because it had anime on the cover and stuff. It's a really rare game too, but I started playing it. I'm like, is there a storyline? Because I'm not seeing any storyline in this, and they're like trying to like, I don't know. They had these like storyline sequences like it made sense at all, and all it is like this kind of like shooting game, and you're like, how does this fit? How does this even like? It didn't make any sense at all, even though it's like really super rare game. It's kind of weird. Like I don't know.
Now, if you want to continue to go nonsensical, let's look at some like Japanese fighting games.
Yeah. Oh, which also, like, most of the horror games that I have, too, some of them don't really make sense at all, unless it's a really, really good series, obviously, but, like, even I'll criticize the Fatal Frame series. It's like, you're trying to save, okay, like, this is the second one, Crimson Butterfly. You're trying to save your twin sister the whole entire time, and then you get to the end of the game, and then you end up either killing her, or killing her more, or reviving her ass, or leaving her. Like, you have all these different options, but it's just like, I'm here to save her, but in order to save her, I have all these other options, like I can kill her, I can leave her alone, or I could, like, get myself killed in order to save her. So it's just like, I don't know. It was such a weird experience. Like, the game itself was beautifully made, but it was just like the ending. I find with most Japanese like horror games, like kind of like Japanese anime in a sense, like they don't know how to end their stuff correctly. It's weird.
We've also learned that of BioWare.
Yeah.
All that DLC later on.
I still love it.
Alright, I guess we'll move on from that and let's start talking about economy. Oh yeah.
I have no idea how anything in the world of Pokemon works.
Neither do I.
But kids leave at the age of 5. No, sorry, at the age of right,
10.
the mature age of 10 to begin their world journey of gathering Pokemon with money they steal from other people.
After Pokemon battles.
Yeah, and you have to be successful if you want to make a living in Pokemon battles. But then again, how does anything work? The entire economy revolves around Pokemon battles. You don't see people like at everyday jobs. Like,
there's the Poke Center. There's the, you have your Nurse Joy. You have.
Yeah, but you don't pay to go to the Poke Center. They don't get money from you.
But I also don't understand is there only like 3 people for one huge gigantic building? It's like, where's the rest of the workers? Like, where are they?
What are the people hospitals?
Like, who's running all these places? It was so weird. I mean, like, what was it, the radio tower or something like that, in red and blue, and it's just like, what's going on? And there's like few people, but anyway. Pokemon is a great example of that. It's just like, the economy in that is just like so broken. Like, everything else makes, I guess, good sense, but.
Well, why would you ever buy a plane ticket if you can just grab your Charizard and fly wherever the hell you want?
Yeah.
Like the whole like economy of travel must be really messed up in Pokemon, where you can just fly from place to place. Just get yourself a big enough bird.
I have a question about this. I mean, how are like the gyms and Pokemon battles sanctioned? I mean, you probably would have to find some sort of like sporting body to have this all like regulated. Well, I mean, it doesn't really tie up into economy so much.
What do you mean, like how they run their gyms, or?
Yeah, like is there like well, I know there's like a Pokemon League, but is it like the
like who basically funds them?
Yeah, who funds it? And are they sponsored too? Like, I mean, do you see banners for McDonald's, Subway, Esso, or something every time you walk into a gym?
I mean, it's not really explained maybe in the games, but I guess they more or less explain it in the TV show. I'm not even sure about that. Like, I stopped watching.
Could be. Yeah.
From what I can tell, the gyms are sanctioned by the league. You need to qualify at the gyms to be able to compete in the league.
Somebody owns all this shit. All I know.
There's some old guy in a tower somewhere just like, yes, make them fight. Make them fight.
It's the boss from Team Rocket, you know it.
Yeah, Giovanni, yeah.
He owns a lot of shit.
Right.
The other economy things I was thinking of, though, because economy is, like, really broken in a lot of games, so I was, like, looking more at, like, I wrote it down here. Well, most, like, RPG games or whatever video game basically sells, like, weapons and items and everything like that, like, I just find it's really broken because of the fact that, like, it's kind of too much like real life in the sense where you buy something and it's pretty expensive. It's like video games, for example. You go buy a $70 game, and then when you want to resell it, it's got like an $8 value.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, we want to get away from the real world by playing a video game. We don't want to have that same problem inside of a video game. So I find it very illogical in the sense, like, why should I pay so much or waste so much time grinding my character to find money in order to buy an item, an expensive item, and then find out that the sell value is, like, pennies?
You know what you need in those games? You need a Craigslist equivalent where you post, okay, I have this sword for sale, slightly below market value, used up, and you just sell it to other players, so the other players don't have to go to the in-game shops.
A
lot of MMOs do that, though. I think.
MMOs do that, But if you look at a game like, just off the heck, even the first Dragon Quest has something like that, where you can just where Dragon Quest has a system where if you want to sell your sword, you get it for like half the price or something. But in MMOs, you can actually post on a board and get a fairly good deal.
So in other words, single-player games, you probably will not have that same option. It was
No.
if you're playing multiplayer games, you will have that option. But yeah, again, like the economy like doesn't really make sense in that sense. For I don't know.
Too much sense.
I just feel like all of the shop owners in like those games are pretty much making millions of dollars off of your character. I'm like, how are they not pimping out their like houses and shit that they live in? I don't know. It kind of makes sense though. Like if you look at like the Harvest Moon games and stuff like that, that actually makes more sense because when you're putting in the effort to like both look for items to pimp out your house as well as pay into it, like they actually make the upgrades. Unlike in other places that it's just like, where's your money going except for the same stuff that you're already doing. So I don't know.
Mhm.
Because they're not really like upgrading towns and whatnot. It's like, who's managing this crap? Who's doing the whole political aspect stuff of the economy? Who's selling? Who's trading?
They're taking all your money and putting it into a bin and throwing it away.
Hope not. It's an endless bin. It's like Pokemon. It just, you don't know where it goes.
That or the shopkeeper is the real end boss, you know? Like, at the end of the game, just find him in his giant fortress of all the money you gave him for all the
See,
stuff.
that would make sense, and that would totally, like, pay into it, and then it would give you an awesome fight for it afterwards. I don't know.
You know, he couldn't die. He has, like, infinite Phoenix Downs and potions.
Never runs out of stock.
Yeah. He's got all access to all the weapons and everything.
I am immortal. I fuel your war. Oh my god, that would actually make a great end villain, the shopkeeper.
The shopkeeper, like... I do have something to add on this. It's kind of related. What about using the money you get to upgrade, we're not talking about items, but let's say an organization or a group or something, because I'm playing...
Oh, you mean like a guild or whatever?
Like a guild. I'll give you an example. Like I'm playing Assassin's Creed Syndicate right now, and you have the option to do upgrades to your gang, giving them specific skills, certain tasks, certain abilities to help.
That actually makes sense though, because it's in Assassin's Creed. If you're giving the money towards it, it's being like established by whoever's running the establishment.
Right.
So it's putting money into training. It's like doing sports in real life type thing. Like you're paying to play the sport in order to, I guess, better yourself and for entertainment.
Well, you're investing in something in order to get something back, whether it be money or items or skills, XP.
See, that one makes sense though. So we're trying to look for more something that doesn't really make sense.
I've always been a fan of games where you can like send off some of your minions and have them do missions on their own, and they can come back.
Yes. Metal Gear Solid 5 has that. They have, I think, I forgot the name of it, but that's something they actually have, and it's actually timed too. There are some missions that will take maybe like 20 minutes to do, up until like 4 days.
I guess it must be really like tardy type of mission or whatever for them to actually have to go for that duration of time.
It can be from like resource gathering, assassination, building a base, recruitment. I didn't use it that much for Metal Gear Solid 5, but the only reason I did that was just to get the resources and the money that I need to help build a base, invest in the research and development of equipment that my main character needed for missions.
Okay. I'm trying to think of other stuff, examples or whatever with the economy system. I know there's a bunch of them. There has to be because, like, I mean, there's like so many games that we play that. What about like BioShock, for instance? If you guys looked at Rapture, like, where's the money coming from? Where are you finding like all this like you're underground? There's nobody running anything anymore. Like, why do you still need cash in order to access like the vending machines or whatever?
Well, you have to understand that we're talking like first BioShock, BioShock 1. The protagonist came at a time when the society had just collapsed. So there was still money, there were still items, there were still vending machines still functioning.
Yeah,
And
but
he,
my point is that like why would you pick up money and try to use them in the machine if you could just beat the crap out of it and just take all the stuff from inside of it?
I don't know. It seems to be a lot of machines are either booby trapped or have a lot of shit wrong with them. Even when you hack the machines, all they really do is just bring down the prices. So that's a kind of a mix of in-game logic where it's like, okay, these things still work and give you ammo at an infinite or limited amount, but no one has been smart enough to think, let's just open the thing and take everything out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's nobody there to manage it. So, like, what's the point of using the actual system of the machine if there's no, like, there's no reason, like, nobody's collecting the cash, right?
Because it makes sense in Bioshock Infinite, because, you know, it's still, everything's still fairly running in that.
Yeah.
But no, in Bioshock 1 especially, it does not. Because everything's gone to crap, everyone's a junkie in the city, everyone's killing everyone. Yeah, that is a complete lapse in logic. Who is filling up those things?
It's like, who's maintaining them, except for the people that are still alive, or whatever it may be, but I don't think they would waste their time going out to a machine and... like, I don't think it's the big daddies that are doing it, or little sisters.
Well, they are still collecting the atom for someone, but I don't know who. But no, you actually that brings up another thing that makes no sense in the actual canon of the story. The new U stations in Borderlands. Now, actually, I met one of the writers from Borderlands 2, and I asked him this straight up. I'm like, spoiler warning, you played Borderlands 2, right?
Yeah.
You know, Roland dies at one point. And all I can think to myself is, why didn't he just respawn? Apparently, the guy said it was my mistake making the respawn stations talk, because then people thought they're actually in canon in the story, but they're just kind of like a save point in many video games. They're there, but they're not actually there in story. They're there for the convenience of the player. So you have a lot of stuff like that in video games. The vending machines themselves, they're there for the convenience of the player. They're not there for in-canon or story purposes. Logically speaking, they're not there. They're not part of the story.
Yeah.
That's why Roland doesn't respawn. That's why the weapons just keep coming in an infinite amount.
So it's exactly, well, that would be the exact same thing as a Bioshock then in that case. They're just literally there for the player's enjoyment. Like the game experience, it has nothing to do with the rest of the, like, nobody else is using essentially. Which is kind of strange though, because I don't know, what else would they live off of?
Well,
I do not understand. I do not pretend to understand the way their economy works.
another economy that kind of doesn't make any sense to me is Hyrule in Legend of Zelda. For some reason, Ocarina of Time kind of comes to mind, because if you think about it, there's only 2 villages, 1 farm. I don't know if you could call the Gerudo place a village.
Yeah.
It's more of like a
tribe, I believe.
They're more of a tribe, yeah. So it's just basically 2 villages and a farm, if you think about it.
It's like, how are they doing their currency, and how is it that they're, like, I know that they're trading with each other because they had mentioned it in the game, but like it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't make any sense because it's very, it's like, what are they trading?
Yeah, I mean, you have Hyrule Castle Village, that's the capital and all that. You have another village, Kuriko Village, and a farm. How is this one farm supplying milk to all this land of Hyrule? Doesn't make any sense.
Think about it. There aren't that many people in Hyrule.
No.
Hyrule's a kingdom of like triple digits of people.
Yeah.
But that's if you're going by the video game representation. Now, if you read, if you actually look at some manga that they've done of that actual arc of Ocarina of Time, you see that the world's actually bigger. It's much larger. There are possibly more cities, or the cities themselves are larger.
Well, if you look at Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, that makes a little bit of sense because there are villages, there are castles, there are towns. And the world's a lot bigger, so that makes a little bit more sense economic-wise rather than Ocarina of Time.
But
But
here's
then
the
we also
point
look at
that
the
we're all
actual
skipping
production
over.
too.
The reason why a lot of these places are so small and make no sense is because of the limitation of the actual game and hardware you play it on.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what I was gonna say. I think they gave up or whatever on how many people they wanted to create for the game, and they're like probably saying, oh, they're there, but they're just hidden behind a wall or something, or
Invisible
That rock
walls.
over there, they're behind that.
but then later on, like well, because that was made. What year was that game made in? Anyways, so creative time.
98.
Yeah, it was the early 90s. So, like, if you think later on, like, in the later, closer to the 2000s anyways, they started making games that you can actually have, like, generated people. So it just spawned people in video games now. So they don't have that problem as much anymore.
Yeah,
Right.
compared to Twilight Princess, the world looks so much larger in that game.
Mm.
Like the castle grounds look like legit castle grounds. Castle Market looks like a castle market. The cities are much bigger, much more open fields. It's more believable as an actual Hyrule. So if you look at Ocarina of Time, considering Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess are the same Hyrule, more or less, it's like, okay, this is how it's kind of closer to what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me actually also because I still haven't finished it yet there, but Skyward Sword is like it's kind of the same thing. But it makes a little bit more sense in this, like it's a smaller type villages again with their own kind of like I guess system. They do have shops that they sell and make money, but like you're basically forced in order to find like the cash by like killing monsters and whatnot in order to actually go and like I don't understand how the monsters have money, but game logic.
Game model.
They're monsters. Why would they carry money on them?
It's like where are they holding it? Inside their
It's-
bellies.
It's not only that. They're in bushes. They're in caves. There's the Skulltulas too. The golden ones. The gold
Yeah, it's like
Skulltulas.
how are they all stealing money? Any type of game, even RPG games, like it's like how do you figure like where's the money at? Like on the monsters, like they don't have couches. They don't have time for that. Like come on. Even the bosses there, like we were discussing last time. Well, I brought up Diablo. When you kill the boss, it's like he's spilling out rainbows of money or for raining money or whatever like that. It's just like, how did this happen? Like, it's like, oh, you're looking for economy. We are raining dollars. Like, I don't know.
Make it rain.
My favorite once again is actually Borderlands, where they actually do have like guns falling out of the sky like rainbows.
That's like, it's just no.
Oh, and Pat, you wanted nonsensical worlds. Did you ever play Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep?
No, I didn't get to play that.
All right. Long story short, what Tiny Tina's Assault is that they're actually playing their version of Dungeons and Dragons. What was it? Badasses and Bunkers, or Bunkers and Badasses. And they're literally playing a D&D game. So your player character is the character that the characters in game are using to play D&D.
Okay, that's so weird. That's like really.
It's a game within a game within a game.
Wow. That's so trippy. Oh my
And
gosh.
what's really cool about that is that everything in there, like all the weapons, are even more trippy because they're like now RPG weapons. Like you get this one gun that it shoots swords. Like it shoots like 5 swords at a time. That was it.
Oh my god.
Excalibastard, or no, I think that was one from the last game. But you also had like an actual grenade called Magic Missile. And there's an actual part in the game where there's an enemy. It's just a wall, and it's called the Darkness.
Oh
And
jeez.
the only way to defeat it is to cast Magic Missile at it.
That kind of reminds me. Okay, Peter, do you remember the anime Tower of Draga?
You mean the anime where there was characters that looked exactly like Ed and Al Alphonse, and the first episode had nothing to do with the rest of the series?
Exactly. It's the same thing.
That episode
honestly
was better
thought,
than
I was
the
like, this is legit going to be the greatest series ever, and then it was like nothing to do with the rest of it, and you're like, why? It would have been awesome.
Like, I have someone waiting for me back home. Death flag.
It was like everything wrong with that. Anyways, off topic for that. Okay, moving away from economy, then I guess we can get into original content versus remake series. So, yeah.
Like, new IP versus sequels, or
Yeah, like original content series, what do you think makes more sense? Do you think like original content made series make more sense or logical or are more logical than remake series or series that basically like I don't know carry over for a very long time? For example, like the Final Fantasy series, those are like all like there's so many of them, they're remade and whatnot.
well, it always varies, like specifically on what's the concept you're playing on, because people come out of nowhere with a new IP and then just keeps getting sequels. But then there are other times where they keep making games, you keep getting sequels to them, which make no sense inherently.
Mhm.
And then you get like IPs that like, oh, it's an interesting idea, but we can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Here's a prime example. At the same point, EA released Mirror's Edge and Dead Space. Now everyone loved both, but only Dead Space kept getting sequels.
Yeah.
And Mirror's Edge didn't even get a sequel until recently, where they're just like, just reboot it.
Yeah.
It
Well, it's
also-
kind of like, do you feel like, they're losing the content in a way by making these reboots and making these these remakes?
I think it depends from series to series, because I know there's going to be a new Ratchet and Clank coming out soon, and I've been a fan of the series since the very beginning. This new Ratchet and Clank is going to have more or less the same content that's been around since like the early to mid 2000s, but it's going to be a retelling of the first Ratchet and Clank. Where that's one example, but when it comes to, let's say, the actual well, it wasn't reboot. It was like it was remakes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to original content to remakes, I'm more preferable to the original content, uh, just for the simple fact that it's the original one.
Can you give me an example of something that would fit into it, like a certain game that would fit into this category of what you're saying?
I can give you one, but this is more in the camp of sometimes remakes are better than the originals. And the best example I can give, Pokemon. You got Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, which are far superior to Pokemon Red and Blue with added content and added dialogue, cleaned up everything. Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, remakes of Gold and Silver, and the most recent Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby. They're remakes of those games with added content, beat for beat the same story, but they're superior. Like, I would much rather play Fire Red or Leaf Green as a like complete game, but you go back to the original one for nostalgia value.
Do you feel like they cleaned it up a lot more, though, in the sense of, like, logically speaking? Do you think they changed a bit of the logic from the first game to what it is now?
In some regards, I know they definitely did that a bit more for Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, because especially for the latter two, they have to add Mega Evolutions, and for the other one, they have to add new areas, new content, connecting everything. For the first one, the Fire Red, Leaf Green, it was just more the same, but cleaned up graphics and added content.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think that, like, the whole changing of the actual, what do you call it? Like, the whole setting itself of different, like, places that you go and visit, the villages and whatnot, or the, like, the towns and stuff like that, they'd have to restructure the whole entire, I don't even know what it's called. Like, just being able to walk around and whatnot, like geometry and stuff like that is completely different from like the, I guess it's an 8-bit. Was it 8-bit for the original ones?
Yeah.
Possibly.
was
18,
flat, that's all I know. Because this was like more in a 3D like experience though too, so it's like they had to make everything fit essentially.
What about 3D remasters of classic games? Because I actually have a few of those in my collection. Most notably, just off the top of my head, I have a revamped version of Double Dragon, Ninja Turtles, and Turtles in Time, where they basically give like everything's been revamped. It's kind of like a 2.5D where the sprites are like in 3D.
What are you talking about? The one that came out on PSN and Xbox Live a few years back, right?
Yeah. Those are the ones that are floating in my mind right now. Yeah.
All right, I'll talk about that one quickly. That one was a very poor port.
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, because here's the thing: it's more of a port of the actual arcade version than the Super Nintendo version.
Yes.
People have fond memories of Turtles in Time because of the Super Nintendo version of it. It was cleaned up to be played on consoles.
Right.
So it wasn't as gratuitously killing you annoying as the arcade version. They added even some extra levels, some extra bonus stuff, some extra abilities to kill off opponents, but they didn't take that version. They took the other version, which was, like I said, more annoying. I think that had to do with some rights with Nintendo or something, because all that content was only exclusive to the Super Nintendo version. And the fact that they couldn't reuse the old music, come on, that was one of the most iconic parts of it.
I mean, some of the time, like, if you're gonna look at the iconic part of it, like, the original content of certain games, though, nobody does want to touch them because they don't want to, like, for example, I don't think anyone's gonna plan on making a remake of Chrono Cross anytime soon, like, I mean, it's such a great original game, it's original concept, but like even I wouldn't touch it. Like, there's certain games that you would not touch because they're just too perfect, I guess you could say. And if they made a remake of it, it would completely discombobber their whole logic and sense of those games. So.
And then there's that you're afraid of what's going to happen, like the FF7 remake.
I was just going to mention that because.
Well, I'm very on the fence about that. Like, I mean, not in a bad sense, but in a good sense. Like, I mean, it's something that like everybody's been wanting for the longest time, and they're finally getting it. But it's just now the fact that everybody's too afraid about how it's going to be handled and if it's going to stay true to what it's supposed to be. So.
Yeah, because what are we getting? It's going to be episodic, a totally different battle system, no more ATB, so...
But you know what? Like, I mean, that's to be expected because of the fact that we're in a new day and age and people are trying to put their new, I guess, gameplay system into it. So, like, they want to revamp everything, but they also don't want to break, I guess, the original, like they said, original content of the original games. So.
I keep the enhancements where need be, but you need to avoid what I call sacred cows, such as like the story. You know how the way the story flows, the different events, different things that happen at different times in the story. You know, like those are the key moments that you remember, and you don't want those to change that much, if not at all.
You know, the story generally stays consistent between remakes. Whenever you see changes, they're more like added content, more backstory, or more lore, or cleaned up graphics. But because even what they're saying they're going to be adding for FF7, there's that whole scene where it's like, oh, somebody who recognized Cloud from Soldier. So, Lord knows what they'll add in. Lord knows what they'll take out. My concern is cutting it up into...
I don't know. But it's just different tastes, I guess, on it from different perspectives. And I like a lot of it, though, has to do with the fact that it's influenced by major company higher up decisions, and that's something that I personally find is very not useful.
Like,
Because there's these people that want to make a lot of money that don't know a lot about video games, and they're putting their input into these games that are supposed to be really good, and they're ruining it by doing that. And it's just
well, think of it this way. The reason why you have people such as Kenji Inafune leaving Capcom, Iga leaving Konami to start their own
company or business. Yeah.
Yeah, like because now these guys they're using Kickstarter and crowdfunding to make the games in which people want to play. You have games like Ukulele, Bloodstained. I think the game is from
Mighty Number
Ego.
9.
Mighty Number 9. There you go.
If it ever releases.
It should be this year. Should be.
No, but that's the thing. You have an inherent problem with a lot of people in the high-end video game community in that they're out of touch with what actually people want. I think I've told you guys this story. From what I heard is that going into this console generation, a lot of big-end companies thought, oh, console gaming is dead. We have to move to online gaming or episodic gaming. That's where it's going. And then you had games like Fallout 4, The Witcher 3, and some other like big-name games, Batman Arkham Knight, and they did gangbusters on consoles, showing them like people want these games. You just haven't been giving them anymore to people. Yeah. And that's the problem why, going back to FF7 a little bit, that's why they made it episodic, because they were going into this console generation with that model in mind. It's like, we have to make it episodic. We have to make it online. That's the only way it's going to sell. And like, shit, now we kind of already did that, but people don't want that.
Well, the thing is that like that was again, it was probably a really bad executive position on their part, but it obviously means that they're not really listening to the people and what they want, like what they want to see or how they want to see it. The whole, I guess, concept behind like episodic is obviously to make money. So there's no other explanation for that other than whoever made that wants to make the money off of it by having it episodically. Now, keeping it to its original thing by releasing it as a whole, like, that would be satisfying everybody in their right mind for that game. So it's just, I don't know, like, that's it, though.
Just the fact that we're getting FF7 Remake, just that alone just feeds into every gamer's carnal desire to have that remake. You know, when the announcement was made, yes, I was excited, but then when the details started coming out, some of that excitement was watered down. You know, changes to the battle system, episodic content. Though I was happy for a remake, those little nuggets of info just kind of didn't give me that fervor as originally thought.
What you gotta do is literally go back in time, back in the day where they took like 3 or 4 years to make a game, and then just focus on that one thing and not have anything to do with the monies and stuff like that, and just do an actual great game, and that's it. Like, that's all you need. It's just like
very, very rare these days.
Of course it is, because everybody's on a timeline these days, and it sucks. And that's why there's illogical stuff that happens in games, because people put inputs that don't make sense. It's like, hey guys, I have this great idea, and then the guys are like, yeah, no, it's not gonna work. It's like, I don't care. I'm the boss. I'm gonna put this in there. And that's what happens.
The only game that I can think of that's been like that was this game called Nioh, Nioh. It's basically like a Dark Souls, but with samurai in it, and this thing's been in development for the last 10 years.
That's wow. That was like that other. I don't know if it's the same guy or whatever. But there was another dude that was. I think he finally released his game on Steam or something, and he had been working on it for like 10 years or something. It was like this really, really old like adventure game. I don't know. Anyway. So do you guys want to wrap up now, or do you guys have anything else to say about original content versus remake series stuff, and like how it's not fitting logically?
To add one last thing. Didn't they ever take the NES Metal Gear and remake it on PlayStation?
That one, no. The only version that they did remake was the MSX version that came out only in Japan. That because the one that we got in North America was kind of based off the MSX version, but it was like modified. Like in the NES game, you don't battle Metal Gear; you actually battle like a supercomputer.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas in the MSX, you actually fight Metal Gear, although it's just Metal Gear staying put, and two cameras going left and right shooting lasers at you.
Okay, because I just wasn't sure. I thought the first Metal Gear Solid game was just a remake of the original NES, but made with current gen stuff.
I do know that in the subsequent releases of Metal Gear Solid 3, they actually included Metal Gear for the MSX and another game that was never released in North America called Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake.
Okay.
Now, one of the games that I did want to bring up that I thought was very fitting in the sense of remake series, and I guess a little bit more illogical in a sense, was I believe it's Final Fantasy IV has been remade how many times?
Maybe
Oh, it got
two,
remade. Yeah.
Let's count how many different versions of Final Fantasy IV there were. Okay, there was the PS1 version that was on the Origins. Origins? Yeah.
We had a direct port though, with some like added cinematic scenes.
Yeah. But there was also which other version was before that? Was it on the Nintendo or something? Which one was it on?
Five on PlayStation.
Okay, I have the full list here. Start off with the Super Nintendo.
Okay, Super Nintendo.
Then Final Fantasy Chronicles for the PS1.
Okay, that's what it was.
Final Fantasy for the 3D remake for the DS.
Yep.
And you have Final Fantasy for the complete collection for the PSP.
Wasn't there also an advanced version as well?
There was like an after. I think there was like an after story.
I'm pretty sure there was an advanced version, or is that the one on the on the Game Boy?
No. It was called Final Fantasies for the After Years.
Oh no, that was afterwards though. That was
Wasn't that like DLC for FF4?
No, that was a complete other. That was another game entirely that they released on PS3 or something, with after the story. But no, I was talking about like just the remake of 4 in general. There were so many different versions that they not different versions, but I mean they released pretty much the game on every single console possible, and kept doing it. I don't know why. They kept going with it for some reason. I mean, they even did it again on, I think, was it 3DS or something that they or the DS system. They did it too.
Yeah, it had an overhaul on the DS.
It was really strange because I mean, like, why would you put so much effort into? Yeah, that's it. I'm looking at the different versions of it, and I'm like, why is there so many? Okay, platforms: SNES, PlayStation, Wonder Swan Color, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, PSP, iOS, because it's also on the iOS now. Windows Phone, it's on every single phone pretty much, and then they released it on Steam, so you can play it on your computer whenever you feel like it. So I mean, it's just like how many?
One reason. It's Final Fantasy, and it's one of the first.
Like, why that one? Why is it so like? I don't understand why they're trying to remake it so badly.
I think it's because it falls in an area where it's not known and known enough, where it's easy to keep putting it out there, and not a lot of people are going to expect anything from it.
Yeah, but it's also like, why wouldn't they do that with the rest of them, though? It's like, if you want to remake something, because, like, I mean, that was, like, a running joke for a while. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, why do they keep remaking 4? Why couldn't they just like remake 6 or something? Or why couldn't they remake the other ones?
Because if they remake 6, they have to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they can't just half-ass that one. 5 is not that well known in North America, so keep testing it out with 4.
Yeah. I guess they kind of stuck to a certain style though after they made the one on the DS, because it kind of like do you guys remember the Crystal Chronicles game?
I hate that.
Yes.
Because
GameCube.
literally fit the same style as well, so they kind of kept that for like the portable ones.
Mm-hmm.
I hated Crystal Chronicles so much.
Wait, which one are you talking about now? Please don't say the GameCube one, because that was the best one.
That one was horrible. I could not play that thing for the shit of me.
You're talking about the GameCube one, right?
Yeah, I hated the GameCube one. I bought it. I was like all excited. Oh man, a Final Fantasy game on my GameCube. I played through one level and I'm just like.
It's because it's not even a Final Fantasy game. That should have been something. It should have been called something else.
Well,
But
okay.
I liked it because of the characters and just it was a different experience in itself. Just being able to, I don't know. I have really good memories with that game, but it doesn't have any logic involved in that game whatsoever. It's a completely different side spin story.
We've come to the realization that Final Fantasy likes to put its name on things that have nothing to do with Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
AKA Spirits Within.
Oh,
Just I love your
Wow.
face, like.
Thank you
Holy
for
shit,
breaking my mind. No, it's so, there's so many. Oh god.
There's NES games called Final Fantasy 1 and 2. Sorry, Game Boy games called Final Fantasy 1 and 2, and they have nothing to do with Final Fantasy. I think they're ports of other Japanese games that just put Final Fantasy on the name.
That's exactly it, though. Like, they did that so often, though. But Final Fantasy has so many different games that are nice. Okay, my brother had a freaking Game Boy game that was also considered a Final Fantasy. It was called Final Fantasy Legends or something.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
It had nothing to do with it.
It was part of a sub-series called Seiken Densetsu.
They literally just slapped the name on it, and they were like, "Oh, it's a Final Fantasy game." It really was.
Kids won't know anyway. They'll buy it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. People did buy it because they thought, like, you know, oh, cool, it's the Final Fantasy series.
How do our rage topics end up so often on Final Fantasy?
Because Final Fantasy has so much illogical stuff in it that it's just, like, insane in that way. Yeah.
Also, 12 and 13 just make me rage so much.
No. It's just one of those games that I don't know. Like it has such a high impact on everybody. It's like it's one of the most receptive, I guess, series in the world, so that people can really refer to it as often as they should. But no, I mean, there's other examples, obviously, of different games and series and whatnot. Like, I don't know, but it's just, I don't know. This one just childhood memories, I guess. The ones that we can relate to the most. Like,
I have something to maybe expand on this. You know, like the other games within the FF7 universe, like Dirge Cerebris Crisis Core?
mm-hmm.
Dirge Cerberus was awesome.
Hmm?
I
I
liked
see.
Cerberus. It was a lot of fun.
Ah.
There were certain games that they made that they tried to like tie some loose ends for, but some of them worked and some of them didn't work. So
Hey, look at Final Fantasy Tactics. That was a great series.
yeah, that's again like they made their own like different world out of it,
Right.
which is why it's like, oh, I don't know who else could actually pull this off with anything. Like, I mean, there's certain ones that follow certain, I guess, the same theme. That I guess that's what they have going for them. I guess for the Final Fantasy series is basically it's like, oh, it's always an apocalyptic end of the world type of thing where you have to save the world, you know, type thing from getting destroyed and whatnot.
Save the world, then the bitches.
Yeah. Well, that's it, though. It's just like they have that specific theme going for them, which is why everybody's like, oh, cool, this is a really awesome game. But then whereas, like, you have other games that have the same sort of concept, but they just don't, I don't know. It's just like I'm thinking of the Tales series for some reason, where like they also have that same logic where you have to save the world from being destroyed, but they have that same like split world thing where they have one world and they have a second world type thing. So they played that out in a lot of games, but now it's just I don't know. You can only use it for so long. I'll probably edit that. But anyways, okay. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this. My name's Ice Valkyrie. We were joined here by Peter and Fox. And as always, this has been another Crazy Rage Topics. If you guys have any comments to make about this certain topic, please feel free to comment in the comment section below, as well as give us a like, or if you guys don't like it, well, give us a thumbs down button. Just tell us why. Sometimes we would like to know why. Also, if you guys have any topics that you'd like to see us discuss further in further episodes, please let us know as well. And yeah, that's it. This is it. That's all. You guys want to say goodbye? I'm saying goodbye.
Bye, that's all, folks.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.